Welcome back. Steve Price in for Shari. Now, I watched most of Question Time today and I didn't think it was a particularly sparkling start to the parliamentary year. Labor spent most of the time dodging scrutiny and laughing off questions about this proposed super tax, accusing the coalition of running another scare campaign. Now, this tax, of course, only applies to people with more than $3 million in superannuation. But interestingly, for me at least, whenever a direct question was asked about the numbers of people that this will impact and how it will impact on, say, a small business or a farm, then we didn't get too many answers. The Albanese government will hike the tax rate over $3 million from 15 cents in the dollar to 30 on super accounts, as I said, with $3 million. Joining me now, chief writer at The Nightly, Aaron Patrick. Good to see you again, Aaron. I just wonder whether the coalition picked the right way to start the year, given that it is a small number of people that this tax would affect, and it is, I think, the unrealised tax on unrealised assets is the key to it. But there's so many other things that the coalition, I think, could have got into Labor about.
Yes, Steve, you know what, I kind of agree with you. I watched Question Time pretty closely today, as I know you did, and I think those attacks over the super tax fell flat, partly because they're not new. You know, the coalition ran that argument as hard as they could pre-election campaign, and obviously it had zero impact. And I just don't feel it worked today, and clearly the government was completely unfazed, you know. And a lot of those questions went to the Assistant Minister, Daniel Molino, who's still really a very minor figure in the government. So I just don't see how that really played much impact on a day that was really important for Susan Lee, because it was her first day in Question Time as opposition leader.
Why wouldn't she have stood up and said, I mean, there's a million other questions, but why wouldn't she have said, for example, my question is to the Prime Minister, leaked Treasury documents show that they believe you're not going to get anywhere near your 1.2 million, if that's the number, houses that you want to build. Or why wouldn't she get up and say, my question is to the Prime Minister, are you still having trouble getting a meeting with Donald Trump? I mean, there's 1,000 things. The cost of living is a big issue. People who've got more than $3 million in super, good luck to them. But average people, they don't want the government held to account for that. They want the government held to account for the fact jobless rates going up, interest rates didn't come down last month, cost of living's out of control, rents, housing prices. So much ammunition, mate.
You know, for your average Australians, the economy is really tough at the moment. And I think that surprise number, was it last week that unemployment jumped up, would have been really great material for them to go after, particularly Jim Chambers after. Look, to be fair, mate, they did actually raise the housing question. So Susan Lee did ask that, but then they kind of left that attack mostly alone to concentrate on the superannuation charges. And also, the government gave the crossbench like 4 questions. And so it sort of, that sort of crowded out the coalition a bit. So watching it, it really didn't feel like it was the coalition's big performance as they would have hoped for. So this is a sign of how tough it's going to be for the coalition to score points when they are so badly outnumbered in the Parliament.
I had to get a tooth drilled just before the start of Question Time. I should have stayed at the dentist, I think. It was less painful than watching Question Time. As usual, Barnaby Joyce, who I spoke to about half an hour ago, and Michael McCormack, they have stolen the headlines today over net zero. David Littleproud, the leader of the Nats, he doesn't seem fazed about this, but I reckon he would be a bit worried. Here's what he said today.
The only thing I haven't done is put my name through my leadership ambitions forevermore. Why would I do that? Yeah. But David Littleproud is the leader.
I'm pretty relaxed about the situation. I think what is important in the National Party and the culture of the National Party is that the party room determines our policy positions.
Aaron, what do you make of the Barnaby and Michael bromance that's suddenly come out of nowhere?
I think those two big old bulls are having I don't think they're having a fight in the paddock. I think they're being a bit more romantic. Look, David Littleproud, man, that's the guy. He is cool under pressure. You know, you've got to sort of, you got to respect that. and you've got two former leaders conspiring to basically, rip up one of the key policies that the coalition agreed on several years ago and take the coalition in a very, very different direction. So David Littleproud is under huge pressure, and he doesn't really show it. So I respect that in a politician. But this is going to be a hell of a contest in the coalition, because there's a lot of Liberals, a lot of Conservative Liberals who want to rip up net zero too.
Aaron, doing a great job on the Nightly. You've written about Donald Trump and this issue with Barack Obama, which most Australians wouldn't understand, but he's going after Obama, accusing him of treason. Is this going to go anywhere?
Yeah, look, thanks, Steve. I wrote the story up because what really just struck me was nobody seemed to really care. So Donald Trump, put out a fake video of Obama being arrested in the White House. It was really quite something. And then it sort of really, because the shock value has gone out of what Donald Trump says. And he said so many sort of things which are just so different to what any president has said before. And there, you can see the video right now, and they've got Obama on his knees, Isn't that amazing for a current president? Put that out, mate. I've never seen anything like it. And presumably it was a distraction from the Epstein files, but it just shows how different the world is under Trump and how difficult it is for all other countries, including his close allies like Australia, to sort of deal with this guy and try and manage our relationship with this guy.
Yeah, maybe Anthony Albanese is better off staying away from him. Aaron, as I said, doing a great job on the Nightly. Thanks for joining us tonight.